As a girl who crammed for every single one of her GCSE history exams, I do not recommend it. However, if you absolutely must cram for a subject, this is what you're going to do. For context, I came out with a grade 9 in the end. However, I recommend spacing out your revision, and if you start now, you absolutely can do that. The first principle that you need to understand if you are cramming for a subject is that there are two main categories of topic. One, topics that are very high yield, and then other topics that are lower yield. What do I mean by yield? So by revising these topics, you are likely to see a better increase in your grade. Let me explain. So there are some topics that are fundamental for you to understand. In history, let's take this example, there are some things that you just can't get around knowing the details of, like the Spanish Armada, like the formation of NATO. These are integral. They cause a lot of other events and you cannot get around knowing them for context. They link to a lot of other things in the course. There are, however, other topics that are incredibly niche. Let's jump over to maths for a minute. You cannot get around understanding how to rearrange an equation, how to complete the square, or how to solve a quadratic. However, iteration, you should know how to do it. However, understanding iteration is probably down here in terms of importance. Understanding how to rearrange an equation is definitely up here, because this allows you to do a variety of other topics. First things first is identify those important topics. Critically identify those important topics that you are weakest at. So start with those high yield topics, particularly those topics that you are weakest at, and those topics that you misunderstood first. So like I just mentioned with maths, if you have no idea how to rearrange an equation, there's no way that you're going to be able to do simultaneous equations. If you don't fundamentally understand that subtraction is the opposite of addition. So how do you cram this information? You need to be using a YouTube video, use it wisely. Don't just sit there and watch it and expect yourself to absorb that information. Keep pausing it and pull out the key info. Don't, however, write it word for word. Don't, however, just sit there and watch it because you won't take it in. Make yourself a little cheat sheet. So in history, it may be the main ideas of this video. What were the causes, what was the event, and what were the consequences? If it's maths, what are the fundamental takeaways? How do you tackle this type of problem? And then immediately after this, you are going to understand how to apply this in an exam setting. You're going to look at exam technique, and you're going to look at what the mark scheme requires of you, particularly for essay-based subjects. If you like this video, be sure to follow for more daily study tips.